Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning,
Good
Commissioner Mohammed.
Morning.
Good morning,
Good
Commissioner Mohammed.
morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome all to today's meeting of the Operations Committee. Today is October 15th, 2024. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you have not already done so, please mute your phone and or computer. Anyone who does not mute their phone may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call. Additionally, if you are not a board member or the CEO and her staff, please turn your video off. I will now read a roll call of the board to identify who is on today's call. Please identify yourself first before speaking for the record. Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Ames Messenger present.
Good morning. Commissioner Coy.
Good morning.
Commissioner Coy present.
Good morning. Commissioner Parker.
Parker present.
Good morning. Members of the public who would like to provide public comment to this committee can do so by signing up the beginning at 9 a.m. the Thursday before the meeting until 5 p.m. the Monday before the meeting's date. Individuals or groups interested in providing comments to this committee may sign up in one of three ways. Contact the board office at 443-642-2095 or visit the board office at the Alice G. Penderhughes Building, 200 East North Avenue, room 406, or by emailing the board office at schoolboard@bcps.k12.md.us. I think I'm getting used to it. Up to 5 individuals will be given the opportunity to provide public comment to the Operations Committee. Speakers will be granted 3 minutes. All public comments should address operations-related issues. Sign up is not permitted the day of the meeting. In addition, the chat function during our virtual meeting will not be used as a tool for gathering feedback or answering questions from the public. If you have follow-up questions or feedback and did not sign up in advance to provide them during today's meeting, please send an email to schoolboard@bcps.k12.md.us and the board office staff will provide a response to you. And I would like to welcome us all to a healthy discussion this morning because we get to talk about budgets. So welcome to today's operations meeting. 1 second. We're going to get started with FY26 budget. Good morning, staff.
Good morning, Commissioner Mohammed and commissioners and city school staff. I am here today. I'm Stephanie Fay, the budget director, and I will be co-presenting with Sandy Jacobs, who's our executive director of strategic resourcing and finance, and we'll go ahead and get started. So to align to our board priorities, as you know, the budget touches on all of our budget priorities. Today, we have a quick overview. Yes, we have started fiscal 26 budget season officially kicked off. We'll talk quickly about the landscape, the funding landscape. We'll talk about some process updates and then some blueprint updates. So just to talk about the very, very preliminary projection, just so that we're all grounded in what we're looking at for fiscal 26, I wanted to remind everyone that, again, our largest jump, of course, was when the blueprint was implemented. And as you can see, between fiscal 24 to 25 and then fiscal 26, 25 was pretty flat and extremely lean. And beginning in fiscal 26, we will see those increases that are much more impactful. These preliminary projections are based on, of course, the appropriations statute, and then the final numbers, once we will know them, are based on, of course, when it passes at the state level, and then the final enrollment numbers. And that 5% increase is approximately $70 million for this upcoming fiscal year. Okay, longer term revenue projections, as we notice as the years go forward, they are noticeably steeper. We know the funding stream is idiosyncratic. We've known that from the beginning of the blueprint. And then after the fiscal 26 appropriations scale up, however, again, these are always fully dependent on finalizing at the state level each year and the impact of how we do with enrollment up and down. Okay, so going into our budget planning process for fiscal 26, first I wanted to talk about some of the highlights from this past year, the good and the stuff that we're still working on for fiscal 26. There are 4 pieces that comprised of our new and improved budget planning process. And these were all put together through our new budget ambassador group that we kicked off last year. We wanted to highlight all of these school processes that went into place. Let me talk a little bit about the roadmap. That was our old guidance turned into this wonderful new roadmap for the schools. It was summarized by all of the key requirements and recommendations, including some funding sources that they could use to put together their budget. It was organized thematically, and we had 2 different versions of that roadmap. The calculator planning tool was brand new for fiscal 25, so it was a new piece that we added in. This was an Excel-based school tool. Once they punched in their school number, it was preloaded with their requirements to assist in building the budget for last year. The priorities in action, again, was also a new piece that we added to the budget process for fiscal 25. We highlighted the key district investments related to each of the priorities to help the schools put together their budgets a little bit more aligned. And it included recommendations on how to build your budget. And then the reference guide, again, was a brand new piece. It sort of supported the roadmap. It was taken out of the old guidance and it was put together in its own way by department with different links and places to go for more information when you built your budget. And the exciting news from fiscal 25 was due to this new team putting together and all these new tools that we put into place for the first time ever in City Schools history, all of the schools submitted their budgets and central office on time by our timeline. So that was very exciting for us this year. Now it's a new level that we need to hit each year. Okay, and just to quickly highlight on some fiscal 26 continuous improvements that we're going to be focusing on this year with our budget ambassador group. We are going to take on improving the budget collaborative experience for the school leaders. As you all know, and Courtney has mentioned, year over year, we're like the only district who sits down with each of the schools during the budget process, which is a huge feat. We are going to try to streamline that and make it a better experience for the school leaders this year. So that is a goal. We are going to continue the refinement of the tools that we just talked about and enhance them a little bit. And we're also going to put a 3rd set of roadmap guidance for just the middle school. And then we're going to continue to build that cohesiveness across all offices so that the experience in building your budget becomes non-stressful and more fun. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Sandy Jacobs.
Thanks, Steph. Good morning, commissioners. Of course, we can't give you a budget update without also connecting a little bit of update on our blueprint implementation. You know, they're so closely connected. we submitted our 2024 Blueprint Implementation Plan in the spring. This year, the MSDE and AIB have divided the approval process into 7 discrete reviews of things that we submitted. They actually divided the plan itself into 3 separate reviews. First we submitted a part in March that was an overview of our implementation. And then we had 23 questions to respond to, which were divided. The first 22 questions were a single review. Question 23, which was on resource allocation and ties to the budget. So we're going to talk about that one a little more in a second. What got its own separate review, we had to provide an attestation that we achieved the 10% teacher salary increase that is required under the blueprint. We did not need to update our career coaching MOU. Our MOU was still in good shape. That's the MOU that supports our career coaching work with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development and BCCC to provide career coaching to all our middle grade and high schoolers, our pre-K to 12 literacy plan, and then also our career ladder plan. So of the pieces that we've submitted, we've not yet submitted our career ladder because we are still in negotiations. We haven't yet come to agreement with the bargaining unit, but all the other pieces that we submitted, we've been notified have been recommended for approval by the AIB. We will get that career ladder piece in as soon as possible. But I did want to highlight this question 23 for a second. So the question on resource allocation was where districts had to describe both how we were meeting the 75-25 minimum school funding requirements, which, as you know, is the centerpiece of the blueprint, that so much of the funding follows students to their schools, as well as show how we were investing in all of the 5 pillars of the blueprint and how those investments would increase over time. We were one of just a very small group of districts that were not asked to revise question 23, that our first submission was accepted and recommended for approval by the AIB, and really wanted to underscore, as we've mentioned to you before, that it appears that we are still the only district that is actually meeting the 75-25 funding requirement for this year. The state gave districts some additional grace period to continue to work on that, but we are well ahead of the game and have been meeting that requirement. On the next slide, Steph. Thank you. We also just wanted to make you aware as part of this budget update that there are new Blueprint financial reporting requirements that have kicked in. You may have been hearing about this PowerSchool dashboard that is going to be available that shows both allocations and expenditures by districts and at the school level across the various Blueprint funding streams. That is now in effect, that all of those financial reporting requirements are in effect for FY25. We have been submitting our data as required to the state to be part of this new dashboard. It's been a bit of a work in progress. We've been trying to keep up with, as new requirements come down from the state, we adjust how we've been reporting accordingly. But it's definitely still an example of building the plane while you're flying it. But we wanted the board to know that we have been reporting all data as required by the state. And then just on the next slide, just to give you a sense of what this dashboard shows. Right now, it's still pretty limited in what it shows. I think there's a little bit of perception as this dashboard gets talked about that it's just like this, one-stop visualization that will show everybody everything about Blueprint funding. We hope it's going to get there. All our required data is in, but the visualization right now is still pretty limited. But we just wanted to give you a sense of how that works. We're not sure exactly what the state's timeline is to make the PowerSchool dashboard available to the public. We know that is the intention. This is the pilot year. We think at some point in the year, they are likely to begin that public sharing, but we don't know exactly what that timeline is just yet. So that is all we have for you this morning. Happy to answer any questions, hear any comments you may have.
Commissioners, the floor is open. Commissioner
Mohammed,
Coy.
I have two questions. The first is about the budget process and tools, and specifically it's about what tools are being used. You reference Excel in one of the spreadsheets, but I'm also interested in understanding to what extent either tools are being used or are planned to be used, such as the new ERP system or some of the AllofU budgeting tools that I believe the district is utilizing. So just getting a sense for what are the suite of tools that are either already rolled out or being rolled out.
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Coy. So at this point, we are still using our current ERP budget tool for fiscal 26. There was not yet one developed through the new system for fiscal 26. So it will be, our OI team has done a great job in updating that current tool for fiscal 26. So we'll be using that again. AllofU is not for the school-based level folks to use. That would be a tool for us internally if we wanted to do some additional reporting, but the school level will not be using that tool. So they'll be using the same current budget tool for fiscal 26 with some really nice upgrades. And of course, the Excel calculator that we will be giving them to help build their budgets.
Yeah, and Stephanie and Sandy, if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in just a quick second for the commissioners. One of the things I think is missed often when we talk about this is that we effectively, in order to meet the state requirements for this Power School dashboard, they wanted data that was very different than a lot of the things that we do or we calculate. And we had to build a whole separate system just to meet the state requirement. So we're trying to get Fusion up and running and solid first, and then we will we will move that extraction over to Fusion. But yeah, the state requirement made us build an entirely brand new separate system for them.
With guidance
Yeah, thank
coming
you
in
for-
bits and pieces.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that additional insight. My second sort of question is more of a comment, perhaps, which is a thank you, because Sandy, I know it was, I guess, 6 or 9 months ago at this point that I'd requested some of the blueprint information to be in the library and board docs, and maybe I'll just highlight this for other commissioners. It is great to see that there is in board docs a library that has all of these materials. Admittedly, I've not gone through all of them, but I have seen in the plan of the Kerwin deliverables, the items that you highlighted here are actually highlighted in that document as well, showing like what is coming up and what to be anticipated. But it's obviously a overwhelming number of different reports and documents and requirements. But thank you for the way in which you all are studiously and fastidiously focused on those items. So thank you for providing that for us as board members, board commissioners to be able to see and review, and for the updates here as well as others' contexts.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy. Commissioners, any other further questions? Hearing none. Oh, Commissioner
None.
Parker, please.
I was just gonna say, thank you for your presentation. No question as of now.
Thank you.
Hearing none. Thank you, staff. We appreciate the update. We're going to move on to staffing and recruitment update.
Good morning, everyone. I am William Morant. I'm the Director of Talent Management. I will be providing the teacher recruitment and staffing update this morning, along with my colleague, Sarah Rebello.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Floor is yours. Feel free.
All right, so for the teacher recruitment and staffing update, we will cover the robust and varied pathways our high quality staff into teaching here at City Schools, which speaks directly to Board Priority 2. We're going to introduce our new cohort of teachers, share reflections from this past year, as well as walk through improvements we're prioritizing for this year's recruitment and staffing for the next academic school year. When we look at our teacher hiring progress, we've experienced year-over-year growth for the past 3 years. However, this past year, we opened hiring earlier than we ever have, starting on January 2nd, but we saw a slight decline by the end of staffing season relative to the last year. This has made us shift our focus on how to create the most competitive candidate pool starting at the top of the year, identifying any barriers or obstacles school leaders experience with acting on early hiring, with our primary aim to more aggressively convert candidates earlier and carry that momentum through the summer months where we saw the lag this past school year. Despite historic high overall teacher hiring, we still had a significant number of vacancies requiring coverage by a substitute teacher. We identified these vacancies by engaging with school leaders and understanding which vacancies were operationally critical at the start of the school year. The contents of our primary concern are primarily elementary and special education. We've continued working with our recruitment team to exhaust all efforts and match any available and viable candidates starting from the start of the school year up until now to match them directly with school leaders so that we can continue to bring the vacancy number down over the coming weeks and months.
So just to give you an overview about the teacher cohort this year, some key attributes, do want to highlight that the teachers coming in through our traditional pipelines, so Baltimore Teacher Residency, Teach for America, and City Teaching Alliance. Post-pandemic, those numbers had significantly dropped, and I will say that that number is slowly increasing, and we anticipate that that number will be even higher next year. We were able to meet a lot of the ESOL and STEM needs for this year with the hiring of international teachers. We'll have a slide later that tells a little bit more information about that. And we're also continuously building opportunities for paraeducators and substitutes to become teachers as well. Did want to just highlight for everyone, there was a wonderful article in the Baltimore Banner about our international teacher recruitment efforts. So if you have a chance, please take a look at that article. Just some reflections from this past year as we continue to think about next year as well. It still remains a candidates market, so incentives do matter, whether it is, housing for any teacher coming to the city, what is the climate and culture, what are the professional development supports, monetary as well, incentives. But we are still looking towards how we can increase our number to reach 1,000. We are seeking we're taking some reflection in our hiring of the international teachers this year and thinking about ways in which to support them and make that a stronger pipeline as well. We also recognize that while we started hiring earlier in the season, we have to think about ways to make it much more efficient so that as folks are applying to Baltimore City Public Schools, we are hiring them just as quickly. So we need to think about those efficient pathways for them to actually get an offer. I wanted to highlight again some of our recruitment efforts this year and thinking about in terms of how we move forward next year. Again, the alt-route programs saw a significant decline post-pandemic, and this is actually the first year that we're actually seeing those numbers increase. TFA had a full cohort of almost 90 folks who began the year with us. CTA has experienced a management shift over the summer. They are really building out their processes, and we actually plan to see a significant increase with them. We also started a new partnership with Johns Hopkins University to bring in a small cohort this year. Hopefully that will grow next year as well for STEM positions. We continue to build on substitute pathways to teachers, the para pipeline to teachers, our international teachers as well. Our intern teachers, we are actually going to look much more closely in how we recoup the interns that are working within our city. We've identified this year there were approximately 80 interns, but we did not see those interns sort of flip to teachers in our district at a number that we would like. So we're going to have a concerted effort next year. Referrals continues to be one of our strongest sort of outsourcing. The amount of referrals that come from our city schools staff already has been a high way for folks to come into our district. Online campaigns, we tried a few new ones this year. We actually will look towards other opportunities with in a group called Diversity in Education to have online campaigns as well. In our recruitment events, what our data showed us is that our applicant pool are coming from the tri-state area or those states very close to us like New Jersey. Therefore, the focus really was on district-sponsored events locally, as well as the HBCUs and tri-state areas. When we think about the strategies, and we're going to move to talk about 4 strategies in thinking about our 3 strategies, sorry. One is broken into 2. We're really looking at what can we do in the short term, and then what is long-term plans. So some of these are a mixture of what can we do in short term and what can we do in long term. So our first strategy is really looking at internal pipeline of staff moving into teacher roles. So we could have the conditional and resident pathways. We've increased those numbers, trying to identify people who have a bachelor's degree but are not teachers, or who have an associate's degree, how to support them with our partnerships so that they can get into a bachelor's degree program to become a teacher. Our tuition reimbursement package is one of the strongest, and so we are definitely promoting that, and that will be something that aligns to our partnerships as well. We are looking at an apprenticeship pathway. This is new. It's just begun. I believe they are starting to advertise and get applicants for this apprenticeship pathway through TNTP. And that is looking at paraeducators with a job-embedded training during the school year. Big dream that we're working on now. We're really looking at, this is a long-term plan, looking at our high school students starting from 11th grade and creating a student-to-teacher pipeline. Baltimore City Schools, we have a TAMS program, so we're looking at how do we strengthen the TAMS program and expand that as well. And then how do we pique student interest starting early. So our first year, we're really looking at how can we offer early contracts to our juniors in high school and give them a summer learning opportunity. That, again, this is very new. We're investigating, are those opportunities in partnership with other folks like the city? Are those opportunities within our schools when we look at the summer program and how we can embed some type of learning opportunity there? Then thinking more long-term, year 1 and year 3, right? We're in discussion with our university and college partners, thinking about dual enrollment, starting in 11th grade, would not start till year 2 though, considering how do we have paid summer internships and how do we have support for parapro praxis. The reason, our hope and intent is that our 12th grade seniors, when they graduate, we can actually offer them a paraeducator position so that they can also work and go to school. This would align with any partnership that we're in development now on how to make that happen. I do believe that if we can start dual enrollment, then they are not necessarily encumbered by the traditional 4-year pathway while trying to work full-time. So if we can get them at least a year of college under their belt, that would work hand in hand. And then eventually year 3 is thinking about how to ensure that they become teachers in our district as they go through their bachelor's degree program, really thinking about how we make it so it is a free tuition for them. We know that as paraeducators, they would be able to get the 75% tuition reimbursement, but also looking at other pathways and avenues to cover the remaining balance, so it would be a free education. Our second, and this would be really to meet the immediate needs and not the long-term sort of planning forward, really thinking about how do we expand on and expand on our successes and learn from, areas that we need to grow in. This year, we brought in 116 international teachers from 14 different countries, and we were able to identify specific areas such as ESOL, mathematics, and special education, which still continues to be an area that we'll focus on for next year. Our goal is to hire 170 international teachers next year. We're still working out the focus areas. We know that special education will remain, an area of high need. We are working with central office placements for centrally paid positions. We're going to hire early as soon as January to fill those positions, and then offer highly qualified teachers to school leaders to fill positions early.
One of the big reflections that Sarah referenced in an earlier slide was our ability to maximize our applicant pool, expand our reach, and more efficiently move candidates from applicant to offer. So a major focus for us moving forward is increasing the speed from the time a candidate applies to when a recommendation to hire, or what we commonly refer to as an RTH, is initiated, to ensure, again, we are leveraging and maximizing our eligibility pool. This past year, we had over 1,100 discrete eligible teacher applicants, and of that 1,100, we were able to convert roughly about 750 or 67% to full-time teacher hires. Even in doing so, we lost about 400 eligible candidates that either were not picked up or didn't complete their application. Once we began to realize this at the beginning and middle of the summer, we took some immediate steps to see if we could convert more of these applicants to fully completed and or full-time hires. Some of the things that we did was have our recruitment associates curate a list of confirmed viable candidates that they then provided to the talent management team, and we connected them directly with school leaders that had vacancies to fill that these candidates could move seamlessly into. We also surveyed applicants throughout the summer to continue to gauge their interests, also get understanding from them of what were their preferences or the types of schools that they were primarily looking to be hired in. We brought on temps to make daily direct outreach via phone and email to encourage completion of the applications, but also to glean some specific and personal information so we would have better insight as to what types of school models, what types of school leaders they were looking to work for, and then connecting them directly with those school leaders, again, to increase the amount of conversion from candidate or applicant to full-time teacher hire. As we look to next year, we're trying to build on that success as well as close any gaps that we have in our process. One of the major steps that we've taken is moving the recruitment team, which is primarily a task of sourcing, recruitment and screening of applicants, and placing them in the talent management team, which does a lot of the direct placement and working with school leaders under one director. We've also launched an RFP for a new applicant tracking system, or ATS, with better functionality to make it more user-friendly, but also a more seamless process for applicants when they're completing their applications to get to fully complete and into the eligibility pool where school leaders can look and screen them but also make selections for hire. And we're looking to launch that in fall 2025 with an impact on 2026 hiring. And this concludes our recruitment and staffing portion of the presentation. And Sarah and I are here to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you. Commissioners, the floor is open, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Less of a question, more of a comment as far as the international teachers. I'm really hoping that in the next school year, we do recruitment, hiring, placement, really, a lot earlier than we did last year. And also, I don't know how this fits into your portfolio, but I don't know if teachers rather can be placed in some type of support group so they can be adapt to our culture here in the United States and here in Baltimore. Also, I never thought of it, but someone mentioned it to me, just having knowledge around small things like our climate. It gets cold sometimes. Like today was a cold day, it was 41 degrees. So there are probably some teachers who have never experienced winter. So just, having some forethought around the teachers that we're bringing in, making sure that they're coached, making sure the first day is successful, and that the first day is not a struggle.
Yeah. And I just do want to address your point. We actually recruited teachers back in November of last year. We hired the ESOL teachers in January. So we set up all of the interviews, virtual interviews, and they were placed. I think that the trick, I say trick, I don't know if that's the best word,
Challenge.
but I think the challenge, yes. The challenge is that we can't actually place them until school budgets are done, right? So until school budgets are finalized, nobody can actually be hired into a position. It's challenging, right? Unless the position is a current vacancy, which the principal knows they're going to keep next year. I mean, so there are some nuances, just not in terms of the recruitment aspect, but the placement aspect of it. So, we're still working to sort of tighten that and, expedite it as much as possible. I will say that all of the international teachers this year and Katya's team in academics did an excellent job. I think she's created over 6 different PLC, professional learning communities, that meet monthly, and that is really targeted for international teachers to provide them the support and guidance and questions, professional development that they need. In reflection, we realized that what we would like to do, and this is of course a budget allocation discussion, but we would like to seek budgeting to provide international teachers with 2 days of training prior to New Teachers Institute that is specific to them, to go over just the things that you were talking about. Basic weather, right? Certain climate and culture aspects of our schools. We know technology was a big struggle. One, because many of them don't have to do the same high level of technology use in their countries. So really getting them acclimated to our systems. So we are going to request, right, being able to bring them in for specific early professional development in that respect.
Yep, and I'll just add another thing that was brought to my attention: transportation. I know there were teachers who were finding housing, like in Baltimore County, and finding it hard. They didn't have cars and finding it hard to make it to some of our schools, especially like in South Baltimore. It's not like a rail system. So I know there were some challenges this year, and I just, want us, it might not be next year, but I just want us to continue to work on it where it's a smooth transition and the students are benefiting the most out of it.
Agreed. And again, this is sort of the growing pains of bringing in such a large cohort this year. I do think that one benefit, so historically, this is the first time we brought in teachers from across, the globe, right? Historically, the international teachers have been a very strong cohort of Filipino teachers. they have created a network of support just because they've been here year after year after year. And if it's expanding, we are hoping that with this cohort this year, again, sort of that network expands because it's going to require sort of like, you know, the village to come together and to support just in terms of like when teachers first land, right? That opportunity to partner with someone who's been here, been through the ropes. I agree with you. So when so we have several partnerships with resident apartments and row homes. There was actually a recent article in the Baltimore Banner about Johnson Square. We actually partnered with them to provide housing in, I think we took up at least 20 of our teachers went there. But in the partnerships, and I've had flagged this finding housing and or transportation to South Baltimore is a huge struggle. And that's something that we're probably going to have conversations outside of even Baltimore City public schools, but just in terms of like what is happening in the city, what supports exist that can support our schools and teachers in South Baltimore.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coy?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Mohammed. On slide 4, when I have one request and one question. The request is that on slide 4, where you outline the teacher vacancies requiring a substitute, to include, and perhaps more for future, I don't feel the need to see this exactly for this data, but the percent that represents of the total positions. So for example, if there are 7 secondary vocational positions that are currently vacant, is that 7 out of 7? Is that 7 out of 700? Right? That having a sense for what does this represent would be instructive for us, for myself at least as a commissioner. And then to my question that I do want to understand more about is the special education. 48 positions being vacant is a lot in my sort of understanding, but having that insight of like what percent does that represent, and the level of attention that you all have spent on that you outlined to some of the other efforts of recruitment for teachers, is commendable, is wonderful, and has some similar attention been given to recruiting around special education? Could some attention be given around that? What should we be doing to really meet the needs there?
Nope. So I definitely appreciate your comment and question, Commissioner Coy. I will say that special education continues to be a focus for us. One of the things that we experienced this year was an expansion of early learning citywide programs, which of course are our most vulnerable babies with disabilities. Also some in the other areas of citywide programs and just in general, not keeping up with the demand that is there for the number of special educators. I can say specifically, we have worked directly with the Office of Early Learning, the Office of Special Education and Academics, but also with principals to try to prioritize any available special educators that are in the pool, making sure that we pick them up the earliest and quickest and get them in place so that they can get as much support and development before they get into the beginning of the school year, knowing what the implications are for students. This will always be a focus for us because doing staffing for the last decade, I think SPED has continued to be like a persistent challenge. Also because it is an area where I think there's a significant number of conditionally certified teachers like entering the field. And one of the things that we are prioritizing is just making sure that anyone that kind of shifts into one of those roles is really supported, developed, has ongoing tools and professional development to make sure that they're meeting the needs of our students. But as I stated before, working with the offices that primarily fill these roles, whether it is a school-based special ed position, a special ed para role, or if it's one of our citywide programs where we have a lot of push and support from early learning and special ed, understanding what their needs are. And we started to take some steps to even start to break out the different postings that we have in the applicant tracking system so that individuals applying know exactly what it is that they're going for, and then we can funnel them more quickly to the schools that have these specialized programs. We recently did a step back with our separate public day schools and got some feedback from some of our principals, like Principal Stockwell Moore at the Bear School, Dr. Edwards at Claremont, to get some of their feedback on what will be helpful for them. And it's something that we're going to try to implement immediately going into the end of this calendar year. And one of, again, the primary focus areas, we're creating a competitive candidate pool starting in January, so we can begin picking these people up, acclimating them as quickly as possible, and also just giving some peace of mind to these principals in these schools that have these vacancies.
No, thank you for some of that additional insight. And this may be out of scope of this specific conversation, so happy to follow up separately online, offline. But I do want to just express some general concern that I have around some of the hiring freeze that is coming up. I've heard a little bit about it. I admittedly don't know all the details, obviously, but if there's any additional insight that could be shared there, these 171 positions, if they aren't filled by November 1st, are they then not going to be filled? I just think time and attention should be spent in exploring what the full range of options are there and examining to say, is there a way that we could, and again, that's outside of this scope of conversation. I don't want to take away from all the the hundreds and hundreds of folks that have been hired, and you all have done such tremendous work. But I do think this is in need of additional sort of understanding, attention, and I just have concerns there.
Nope. And again, Commissioner Goy, I appreciate you raising that and elevating it. We will not take our eye off the ball. Hiring has not stopped. And so one of the things that my team does is we meet with principals on either a weekly or bi-weekly basis, but also checking with their supervisors, the ILEDs. We've been working very, very closely with the schools office to understand the schools that are in the highest and greatest need, continuing to exhaust our candidate pool and working with collaborations with school leaders in the ILEDs. We have kind of identified some of the areas where we have candidates available and getting those principals to act as quickly as possible before the cutover where we won't be able to bring anyone on board. But that's not to say that during that time period, everything will stop. It just means that we may not be able to process them and we will pick up immediately at the top of the year. But any and all places where we can place someone in a classroom in front of kids where there's a need, we are going to do so. So it's not going to be an instance where we just say hiring is done and now we're focusing on the following school year, which is nowhere near here. We're meeting with them on a weekly basis. And then, like I said, my team is meeting with the ILEDs and we are sharing updates on where we think we need to focus our attention and where we can pull the trigger on putting someone in place as quickly as possible.
Commissioner Coy, I appreciate you raising that as we raised it during our last meeting. Director Morant, I think we're going to have two asks. One is going to be, you just shared during Commissioner Coy's previous question around special education. You shared some critical information I think that will be helpful to the board as a whole. The ask is that you add that information to the presentation so that when we share the information as the entire board, they can have that full picture of the work that you're doing, because the work around special education and hiring is a critical need to the board. I'm going to also ask that prior to the hire on or the stoppage, that the board receives a report on where our current vacancies are.
Okay.
Because there is a concern, we have to be able to support our students, particularly our special ed students, with the required staff. That holdover is a challenge for us, and we're really trying to find a way to become more comfortable with it, and understanding where our numbers are and how we're actually going to meet our children's need is going to be helpful. So thank you for that, Commissioner Coy. Thank you for raising those concerns. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Ames Messenger. Okay, so I do have another concern. Well, I'll start with this. The retention of interns and the student teacher pipeline, I'm very excited to hear. This is not the first time I heard about it, but you raising it continues to show that it's an important project, and we really want to hear about this and the fruit that comes from it a little bit more often. So if there's opportunity for us to have conversation towards the end of the year around the goals that we have, and particularly in retaining this year's interns and the processes, it will be extremely helpful. And then we also saw vacancies in elementary education, significant vacancies in early elementary education. For the sake of public, for the sake of this meeting, can we speak towards how, particularly in elementary education, how we're mitigating those concerns?
So sure, Commissioner Mohammed, I can launch into that. And so just to be clear, the vacancies that we have in elementary are inclusive of pre-K through 5.
Okay.
We can disaggregate for you, and I can make sure we get this information like of where they are spread across schools. What we typically do is meet with principals to understand, one, is it a critically needed vacancy for operational purposes? We also engage principals understanding class sizes and then try to provide any supports that we need as far as coverage. So coverage could look like someone that is out of the classroom that we may need to push into a classroom to make sure the kids are receiving direct instruction. It is working with our team around viable substitutes and funneling those substitute candidates to those classrooms or schools to make sure that someone is in place. And then again, as I spoke to, regular check-ins with the principals to see how things are going. We're currently going through enrollment adjustments and understanding what impact that will have to school staffing and budget. And if we have individuals that are what we commonly refer to as surplus, where their schools lost money and their positions had to be eliminated, my team has put together a list of the schools that have a high concentration of vacancies, or through engaging with principals on a regular basis, understanding what some of the inherent challenges are. And we're going to be trying to funnel those individuals that need a home and placement to move to these schools that are of the greatest need. And to your point, Commissioner Coy, we're looking to try to execute this before there is any freeze so we can make sure we get these people in place as quickly as possible.
Thank you for the update and the lively conversation. We appreciate it. And we're going to move on to our transportation update. Thank you, staff.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jacinta Hughes. I am the director of transportation, and I will be presenting our annual update for transportation. First, we will provide an overview of our transportation services, discuss our current and planned initiatives, and discuss some of our challenges and competing priorities. So our current budget for fiscal year 25 is approximately $46 million. We have 243 staff members at the Office of People Transportation. At one point, we were 90% contracted and 10%. We currently are 79% contractors and 21, reducing our reliance on contractors significantly. We transport approximately 4,951 students annually. It rises somewhere up to about 5,500 to 6,000, depending on the transportation needs as they grow. We have MTA for our middle school through high school, corner-to-corner services, curb-to-curb, and swing space, as well as we support some extracurricular activities. So here we just wanted to kind of give you a brief visual. And it's not working. Hold up. Okay. Of how transportation in the city looks. So if you are familiar with our surrounding LEAs, they do a lot of corner-to-corner transportation for their students. However, because we do mostly transportation as a related service, we are transporting directly to the curb of students' homes to their school address, and it can our buses can go anywhere between 1 mile to 12 miles to transport a student on a daily basis. So we wanted to show that, I know we start out with not the majority of our students, and as the weeks go, we get additional students that we still must provide transportation for. And this just showed you how our numbers increase from week to week. And each time that the number address increases, or we have a new record for a student, then it also impacts the other students that have already been routed. It could be up to 4 bus changes needed to accommodate 1 student, because we are at our resource limit. So we would not have the resources to create an additional route for students being added. So they are added to the routes that are already currently operating and routed. And it approximately takes our routers about 45 minutes to update new bus routes. And that includes notifying families, notifying schools. Some of our capacity challenges include our contractor rates that increased by 31% last year. It is a competitive bid. We did our best to limit the cost as best as we could, but that does impact our budget. So we also have a limited number of vendors who decided to bid on the contract. Of course, the CDL driver shortage still remains since COVID, as well as on the average, we have approximately 30 drivers that call out, and we do not have a substitute pool. So when the drivers call out, it impacts our student services. Some of our competing priorities is the student placement. Transportation is normally the end user. So as our students are placed to different schools for various reasons, oftentimes transportation may have to transport the student outside of an area, which then also limits our resources, because we also have to be mindful of the ride time that all students. We had a robust initiative in the district to increase pre-K 3 and pre-K 4, which also increased our transportation. And as spots closed in areas that was closer, then we had to transport students further with car seats. Car seats and harnesses, which also caused additional time for us to board students. So our balancing act, we do with all our competing interests, we still manage to provide safe and consistent services to our students that have been approved for transportation as a related service. Some of our initiatives for fiscal year 23 to 25, we were trying to get a little more modernized in how we do business. And so we have our electric bus fleet pilot that is operating. We have a robust in-house driver training program, as well as we have a pilot where parents are now able to track the bus in order to find out how close the bus is for their students. This is helping out a lot also because it's reducing some of our calls in the call center because parents can actually locate the information that they need without calling in. Our electric bus fleet pilot. So basically we were approved from the EPA to add 25 electric buses. The east lot, which was our only lot at one time, is completely electric. There's 25 electric buses. We have about 16 to 17 that run daily due to different challenges. The heating and cooling efficiencies on the buses need some work. And so we are working with the manufacturer as well as Holland, who is our partner, in getting the fleet implemented and up and running. Our charging stations have been limited as well due to weather. And sometimes they just don't charge. But it's great for the drivers like driving the buses. It does eliminate the fumes for the students and make it a cleaner ride. And then we wanted to end on our pipeline to reduce our yellow bus driver shortage. So currently we do not have any driver vacancies, which is probably great, but we started with just one driver training position. Now we're up to 9. And so we are constantly hiring and training new people to get their CDLs. While they train for their CDLs, they serve as passenger van drivers, and they still are on a route helping to get kids to and from school every day. Any questions?
Thank you, Director Hughes. Commissioners, floor is open. Commissioner Parker?
Commissioner.
Yes.
Oh, go for it, Commissioner Parker. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Good morning. Thank you for your updates and your presentations. I think we met before over the summer, and I told you that I am the parent of a special need student. So I've seen this process. He's in the 12th grade now. So I've seen this process over a number of years. And, you know, I'm excited about your updates. I'm also still looking for the day where we really kind of nail this. And, you know, again, my son, the first day of school, I don't think he had transportation maybe until like the end of the first week or the beginning of the second week. And he's been in the system since he's been 2 years old. And I was told he wasn't routed or his name wasn't on the list, something like that. And I'm okay with that because I don't live that far from the school. And fortunately, myself and my husband, we have transportation. Where I suffer is I know there are families who do not have transportation. And a lot of times the student's school placement is across the city. So I'm definitely looking forward, to working with transportation and helping through any challenges where this is almost a seamless process, and that students are excited and able to go to school and able to go on time and without a lot of hiccups throughout the school year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Coy?
Yeah, no, I appreciate these updates. I think it was my very first operations committee meeting that lined up with this October transportation update. And you know, the progress over the years, especially with the introduction of the vans, I'm glad to see, you know, sort of improvements and certainly have room to continue exactly down that path. My question, however, does go back to something that I know has been a point of conversation over the years, which is around Bell's schedule. And it's referenced, briefly, and I know it's been talked about previously, but some of the alignment of Bell schedule to facilitate, for a variety of reasons. But all of those reasons to have the Bell schedule that we currently have, I don't believe is the first and foremost reasons around sleep schedules of our middle and high school students. And I know there was a recent report and broader conversation in the community, including there's a conference here in Baltimore this weekend all about later start times for middle and high schools. The research showing the benefits of that. And so, it's a conversation that I understand where, the progress we've made this, that has been reported on. And if this is a broader conversation, happy to have a broader conversation over time, not just right here in this meeting. But I do think engaging in a discussion around middle and high school start times to sort of examine that and say, is there benefits that would outweigh some of the logistical considerations, or what are some of those barriers would certainly be of interest to me.
Yeah, we've been having some discussions as well. So thank you. And we are trying to see if we would still be able to maybe switch to some later times, but still be able to link the buses. So the past 2 years, we have not had more than 50 kids unrouted prior to the bell time changes to where we could link and use one bus multiple times. There were at least 100 kids where we could never get to during the course of the year because we just didn't have the resources. And so one of our main concerns is having the resources for our most fragile population. But we are definitely engaged in conversations to see how we could possibly get later times for middle school and high school students.
Appreciate the question, Commissioner Coyle.
And it has been great. Last thing I'll just add, it's been great to see also the steady progress being made, shifting away from some of the contractors into in-house. I mean, that I think it was like 90% or more in previous years.
Yep.
And the concerted effort that you all have made along those lines. I mean, just progress all in lots of different places, so certainly feeling the benefits of that. So thank you for examining and looking to say, how can we continue to improve.
Thank you.
There's a question regarding the training program. So you have the training program now that we have staff in that are receiving their CDLs, and until then they are being placed as driver or bus aides on the buses. How many individuals do we have in that program, and what's the timeline for their completion? And do we have any rate of success in putting someone through that program?
So I can get back to you with the exact statistics.
Absolutely.
But we have currently 7 people in the program right now. Our very first person that we had graduated during COVID. It depends on the person. We've had some candidates come and receive their CDL within 2 weeks, and some have taken up to 45 days. So we like to use the summer as our training grounds because it's a little less hectic in the office, and more of our team, our 12-month drivers, can also support the trainees. So anywhere after 45 days, I would say that's our maximum. And then we start having discussions if maybe the CDL program isn't for that person.
Appreciate that. Do we have any current efforts in identifying, maybe through CDL programs, different opportunities for hiring these drivers outside of our systems that you can lean on?
So I volunteer at an interviewing for Mine, which is a program that recruits CDL drivers. And so I've also, they can get drivers through the written portion, but they don't have yellow buses. And so we've also partnered with that organization in order to bring people in to finish the process. And I also, even if they don't have CDL drivers, I just go and volunteer and do mock interviews to get people so that's a good partnership. I've with Moet in the city. We had a mechanic who wasn't quite 21, who we brought in as a mechanic, but then trained for his CDLs when he turned 21. And so we are like constantly looking for like partners and to collaborate to grow the number.
And are there any barriers when you look at in your report? You highlighted the increase in contractors, but at the same time, there's a shortage in certified vendors. Is there any effort to fill that gap with potential vendors that aren't certified that we hope and we're maybe have a program to show these vendors how to become certified with working within our district? Or is this what kind of certification particularly is this?
So it's not necessarily the certification, but certainly the procurement department as well as transportation. If there's a vendor that needs help with the process, we've assisted, but it's just having the interest to, is more insurance required for Baltimore City to operate. And so for small businesses, sometimes it's just not affordable for them. It's not necessarily the process as much as trying to get the interest. But I mean, my team and I, as we see buses and bus companies, we will reach out, send an email and say, hey, City Schools is looking for good vendors. And so we try to recruit that way. And if anybody reaches out and is interested, then we do walk them through the process.
I appreciate it. This work that you're doing is so important because attendance starts everything.
Yes.
And our children lean on, at least a lot, lean on us to get them to our schools in a comfortable and safe way. And your team is doing a great job at that. And we, as a committee, look to continue to support you in your work. So thank you for the report.
Thank you.
And we are going to move on. Thank you, commissioners. We're going to move on into our compliance reports. We have policy DDA, our grant fiscal reporting, and commissioners, for time's sake, if we could hold our questions, we can present them and hold the responses in for staff to get back to us in writing as we are bumping against time. Thank you. And do we have staff here for policy DDA? Okay.
Commissioner Mohammed, were you asking staff to present or just that if we had questions to follow up, which is sometimes what we do with the,
Yeah, if we
different times as soon as we do.
Yeah, if for our commissioners, if we can follow up with our questions in written form, as we have we're coming across time, and we can present our questions, but if staff can get back to us in written form, that would be helpful in moving forward.
Pardon me, Commissioner, this is Mary Ann Cox. I'm the Deputy Chief Financial Officer, and it was my understanding that we had submitted the compliance report for the grants for grants, which essentially takes our 770 report, which is an audit report, and breaks it into 3 different parts. Those grants which extend past the end of the year, the grants that end during the year, and the grants that were initiated after the start of the year. So if you have any specific questions regarding that, I'd be happy to take note of them and address it.
Commissioners, do we have any questions? We can present them, and Marianne, you can get back to us in writing if that.
Yes,
if
I
you
will.
would,
Thank you.
please.
That's fine. Thank you.
The
Commissioner
only
Coy?
question that I have, Commissioner Mohammed, on these is actually a little bit outside the scope of the compliance report, which is to understand how many grants we are applying for as a district and whether or not, that we don't receive, right? This is a report about all the management of the ones that we do receive, which I really appreciate. And this is hard work. 92% spend of those that had prior time periods is pretty incredible. So thank you to the team for all of the work that you're doing on that. But I can follow up offline with that question.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it, Commissioner Coy. Hearing no other question, we are going to move forward with policy DIC, financial controls.
Oh, okay. Again, this is Marianne Cox, Deputy Chief Financial Officer. It is my understanding that there was a compliance report submitted for the board policy, and it relates to the submission of our annual audits each year. So as you can see that per board policy, the CEO will provide the board with the annual external audit report no later than October 15th, which is today. And finance will certainly follow up. That information had been provided and should be available to forward to the board.
Marianne?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Mohammed. This is Chris Doherty, Chief Financial Officer. I don't know why my camera is not working, but the financials have been forwarded to the board. It was a few days ago. I don't have the exact time, but I can confirm for sure that per DIC, it has been forwarded to the board.
Appreciate that confirmation. Commissioners, any questions?
Only comment that I'll make on this one, I know I've said a lot of things, so I'll be short, which is a thank you. I mean, the amount of work that you all do between the end of the fiscal year to October 15th for this size, and the clean audits and the sort of the work that you all do on this just cannot be sung enough as such a tremendous lift, effort, and just say thank you. That's it is well done, and kudos are deserved.
Yeah, can I just emphasize quickly that is, I think this is year 15 of clean audits, correct, Chris and Marianne?
I think it's either 14 or 15. That's right.
No. Yes.
So that is a major accomplishment. So yeah, kudos to the team for that, because that is not something that it should be assumed or is typical. So that is a huge accomplishment.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Coy. We really do appreciate those words, and emboldened by those kind words, I will add for the commissioners and the public that LEAs across Maryland have a 3-month period to close their books, and it's generally considered to be too short of a period. For example, other government agencies of the size and complexity of city schools typically have 6 months, and they use every bit of those 6 months. As a vestige of state law, all of our LEAs have 3 months, and it is a sprint from July 1st to September 30th. So thank you for those kind words. And also, I suppose there's every year there are those who aspire to the legislature changing the period of time. And so for board members who are operating at that level, just know if and when it comes up the next time, I think every LEA in the state is unified in its desire to have it go from 3 months to something longer, whether it's not 6 months, 4 months is better than 3, 5 is better than 4, but just know that that's an issue and worthy of being pointed out to board members. And thank you again for the kind words.
Yes, thank you.
Great work, team. We are going to move on to our procurement.
Good morning, Commissioners and City Schools family. I am Shabray Matthews, the Director of Procurement, and we have 6 procurement items for consideration. First up is 15.01 for Shilmar Corporation. The Chief Operating Officer requests the board's approval of a competitively solicited contract with Shilmar Corporation in the total amount of $624,668. The contract provides elevator replacement services at James McHenry James McHenry Pre-K to 8 school number 10.
Commissioners, any questions? Hearing none, we can move on.
Okay. 15.02 Pekinese Construction Company, Inc. The Chief Operating Officer requests the board's approval of a competitively solicited contract with Pekinese Construction Company, Inc. in the total amount of $3,313,440. The contract provides window and door replacement services at Hamilton Pre-K through 8 school number 236.
Commissioners, any questions for this item? Hearing none, we can move on.
Okay, next item is 15.03, Nichols Contracting, Inc. The Chief Operating Officer requests the board's approval of a competitively solicited contract with Nichols Contracting, Inc. in the total amount of $536,298. The contract provides elevator replacement services at Hamden Pre-K to 8 school number 55.
Commissioners, any questions for this item? Hearing none, we can move on.
Okay, next item is 15.04 Janitorial Services. The Chief Operating Officer requests the board's approval of a competitively bid requirements contract with 11 vendors to provide effective and efficient janitorial services to various city schools. The estimated annual contract amount is $22 million. The contract term is January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2027 with 1 2-year renewal options.
Commissioners, any questions for this item? Hearing none.
Okay, next is 15.05 for Brightly Software, Inc. The Chief Operating Officer requests the board's approval of a contract with Brightly Software, Inc., a computerized maintenance management system in accordance with the 21st Century MOU. The contract term is October 23rd, 2024 through February 28th, 2025, with 3 1-year renewal options. The estimated initial contract amount is $154,043.67.
Commissioners, any questions for this item? Hearing none, I will state that I will send a question for this item to you written, and just getting some history on performance, so you have an idea where I'm coming. But with that said, we appreciate you.
One more.
Oh, we got one more.
Yeah,
Okay.
this was
Oh, my
important.
apologies.
19.01 Woodlawn Motor Coach, Inc. The Chief of Schools requests the board's approval of a contract with Woodlawn Motor Coach, Inc. To provide dedicated transportation services for district coordinated middle school athletic programming. The estimated annual amount of the contract is $750,000. The contract term is October 23rd, 2024 through June 30th, 2028.
Commissioners, any questions for this item? Hearing
One
none.
question.
Okay.
One question,
Commissioner
if I
Coy,
may.
please.
Well, and first off, just a thank you for all of the work happening in middle school around athletics. I know it's been a big push over the past 2 years, and obviously these types of supports matter. Does this the transportation support include things that are not necessarily strictly athletic? I'm thinking, we've also seen a lot of robotics in the middle school or other types of these after school programs. Is this inclusive of that, or is this limited solely and exclusively just athletics?
Good afternoon, I'm sorry, good morning.
Go ahead,
Chief
Tanisha. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
This would be exclusively and solely for athletics.
Do we have understanding that there are transportation needs that are unmet for some of the other, important, similarly after school opportunities for middle school students? That's a broader question than this procurement item, but thank you for clarifying that point.
Jacinta, do you have a sense? Jacinta, are you still there? Do you have a sense about other activities? And this is a charter. This is being approved as a charter service, so that it is specific to things like field trips, Commissioner, and in this case, particularly middle school athletics is what we're using this charter for. But Jacinta, do you have a sense of whether there is a gap between services for other after-school activities like robotics?
Yes.
There is still a gap for that?
And as well as for field trips.
Okay. So so this is just generally an area where this is why you're seeing a specific contract for middle school athletics, because this has been kind of the most significant barrier to trying to create robust middle school athletics program. You'll see that other counties don't tend to have middle school athletics very much. And that's often the case because in other counties, there's other avenues for students to access middle school sports. There's not really as much of it in Baltimore. And we know we have a need to create pipeline opportunities for young people, because all too often our students are coming into high school, and when they're playing a sport, it's the first time they've had exposure to the sport. And so we're trying to create more of that pipeline opportunity. And that's why we've worked so hard to create these opportunities. And transportation has been a large barrier for the reason that Jacinta just talked about, is just there's a capacity issue. This is as I said, a charter contract. And so the rules around it are slightly different. And so we can certainly, continue to look to see if there's ways to address the gaps that we have in terms of meeting all the needs of students. And the bell time question you asked earlier, Commissioner Coy, is directly related to these kinds of challenges. Just on that point, I will say we're always looking at the bell times, and we're very aware of the impact on young people for starting earlier. And we've called in, kind of some of the key experts in the field who advise other districts on this. And I've never forgotten that one of them said to us that when they go and work with districts about how to get their bell times more aligned with the sleep rhythms that make sense for adolescents, that they often see a number of challenges, but they've actually never seen all the challenges in one place the way they do in Baltimore City. So, lack of public transportation option, or not as robust public transportation as there should be, and distances that students are traveling because of our choice process. Just the number of challenges that they saw here was unlike anything they'd ever seen. So, this is why we've worked so hard in this middle school athletics, is finding a dedicated vendor who can provide this support without negatively impacting the drive times and reliability of our getting students home from school safely in a shorter route times.
Yeah,
And
no,
there's
thank
more
you
work to be
for-
done.
Yeah, no, well, and I'm in support of this, certainly, and this work, generally appreciative of it. So thank you.
Thank you for raising that, Commissioner Coy. I think that this just gives me an opportunity to raise the great work that's being done around middle school athletics. And I would invite us all to take the opportunity, if we have not yet, to make it out to one of these middle school athletic activities, games, as staff are doing amazing work where this is needed. And I'm happy to say that we don't have any questions regarding this item. So thank you very much for your work. And
Okay, thank you.
I believe, if I'm correct, we do not have any public comments. And our next meeting date for operations, Dr. Judkins, is when?
It is November 19th.
Okay, November 19th. So until November 19th, we want to thank all for coming out and participating in today's Operations Committee meeting. Thank you, commissioners, for your time. And we will see all November the 19th. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.